have a risk and we can have an uncertainty. And the difference is that risk means that we know probabilities and we know possible outcomes. And we can know them because we have experience. Well, for example, we have quite enough analytical data from past events to support these assumptions, these predictions. But quite often we do not. And that's why we are going to have uncertainty. And how do we deal with uncertainty? Well, you can use some of the techniques that we have already mastered, such as Maximax, Maximin, and Minimax regret rule, because there you do not really need uncertainties, you do not really need probabilities. So as you do not need probabilities, then they can work with uncertainty of events. And also you can use some new techniques. And one of them will be sensitivity analysis. And we are going to make this short example first, and then we are going to discuss what this means in terms of definitions. So, our company is planning what it's going to do next year, and it is planning whether to go with some product or not. And it's budgeting its profit, and it says that the sales are going to be $20,000, materials are going to be 10,000, labor is going to be 1,000, and that gives us contribution of 9, and fixed costs are going to be 7,000, which gives a profit of 2. It looks quite good, and profit margin is quite high, so 2,000 divided by 20,000. But we do know that some things can go not as expected, and we want to see by how much our assumptions can change so that our decision changes. So right now we see that we are going to get profit, so our decision is to produce, but by how much should our variables change so that we decide not to produce? Well, we can do that with sensitivity analysis. Look, right now we have a profit of 2,000. So if any of the lines gets decreased by 2,000, then this means that our profit will be lost, so we will have 0. And if it is decreased by more than 2,000, then we are actually going to have a loss. So if fixed costs are increased by 2,000, so 2,000 divided by 7,000, then we are going to have a loss. And how much is it going to be in percentages? It's going to be 28.6%. So I'm going to write that. Okay. And that is the sensitivity of a fixed cost. Okay, how about quantity? Well, quantity impacts our contribution because quantity impacts our sales value and all of our variable cost. So if our contribution is decreased by 2,000, then we are going to have a loss. So we will divide 2,000 by 9,000, which is the value of the contribution. So it's going to be 22.2%. And that is the sensitivity to volumes, because volumes impact contribution. What is the sensitivity to sales price? Sales price is going to impact only the sales line of this profit statement. So if our sales decrease by 2,000 and currently sales are 20,000, so it means by 10%, then we are going to get loss. Okay, so this is going to be the sensitivity to price. And for you, the sensitivity to price is going to always be lower, smaller than sensitivity to volume. Well, because our equation, our formula is when we divide profit by that line that is affected by this variable. And of course, contribution is lower than sales because contribution is sales less variable costs. And as such, the result there, the percentage is going to be higher for volumes than for price. That's why it's more beneficial to decrease our volumes by 1% than to decrease the price by 1%, because it's going to have higher impact on profit. Okay, what about materials price? Well, as for materials price, they impact only materials cost in our equation. So we are going to take 2,000 and divide that by 10,000. So it's going to be 20%. That is sensitivity to material price. And material usage per unit. But not volumes of units though. Okay, as for the labor, we will divide 2,000 divided by 1,000. Okay, and we are going to see that the labor will actually have to increase by 200% so that our decision is not to produce. So 200% sensitivity of labor. And what does it mean? Well, we will look at these sensitivities, and if we have small sensitivity, it will mean that this variable is that our overall result is very sensitive to this variable. So we're very sensitive to a change in price and not very sensitive to a change in labor. So labor cost can actually change quite a lot before it's going to impact our decision so much that we will decide not to sell the product. And the problem with sensitivity is that actually these percentages, they do not give us a clear decision rule. And we need to apply our judgment. Well, for example, if I'm going to go, if this is going to be, I don't know, some retail store that sells clothes, and I will look at the sensitivity to price, and I will say, well, you know what? I'm going to sell a store in a supermarket, in a mall, and it may as well be that mall will require us to lower the prices because they have some events when they want to offer everyone discounts. And in this very business, it's quite common to lower prices by 15 or even 20%, which is much higher than my sensitivity to price. And as such, it might as well be that I will be loss-making during that season. And I do not want to do that. So maybe I do not want to launch this product. But it may as well be that this whatever we have here, this profit calculation relates to some product for which we do not give huge discounts, well, for which the discounts are usually kept within 5%. And as such, I know that even if I give the largest possible discount to price, then I will still be profit making. The same will go to other variables. So I will look at fixed cost and say, okay, so they are 7,000. And what's going to happen if my rent is going to be increased? Can it get increased by 28.6%? I do not know. So I will look at the calculations of rent and I will think about whether this is possible or not. So this is how sensitivity works. This is one way of using sensitivity. And another way would be when we will use sensitivity in a what-if analysis. So we are going to say, so what's going to happen to our profit by how much it's going to fall if our prices increase by 5%? So let's see. If our prices increase by 5%, then they will increase by 1,000. Well, because we will take this 20,000 and multiply that by 5. So if they increase by 5%, then my profit will increase by 1,000 as well. So it's going to be 3,000. Okay. And if my profit is 3,000, then actually I will see that my profit has increased by 50%. Looks weird, right? So we increase the prices only by 5%, but the increase in profit is so big. That's what happens. This is because our fixed costs are high. And well, that's why they eat a huge proportion of profit. So the profit is quite small compared to sales. So yes, this is how it works. Okay, so this is the overall view of sensitivity. And let's go next to learn even more about this technique.